Come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to Minnesota. Justice has scored the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is saved. Saved at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series for Reggie Jackson.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick, you'll have to brush them with your faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie. There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. This is goodbye. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a chance. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
What he made just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Hey! Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, are you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Well, the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, and get them out of here. You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday. We have reached the middle of the week. Another beautiful day here in the upstate of South Carolina. I am your host, Dan Scott. That is Forrest Stulting, and we are just excited as we could be to have you with us here on the program today. How are you, sir?
Oh, doing well, man. Some good baseball going on last night. A great win for the men's soccer team. We'll get all to that momentarily, but overall, doing pretty well. Hope you are too.
Yeah, so far so good. Everything is going well. We welcome those of you who are watching us on the Facebook live stream or on Periscope through Twitter on my Twitter page, or if you happen to be watching on the YouTube page, we welcome you there. Listening to us on the Campus FM or via the TuneIn radio link at WPLS-LP.
Is that it?
I think so right now. Although I think there goes one of our potential carrier pigeons.
I think so, Dan.
Or carrier seagulls or whatever that was. Yeah. Did you notice that up in Hamilton, New York, there were some seagulls flying around?
There were a lot of seagulls. I was actually very surprised by that because we were pretty far inland.
Yeah, that was a little surprising to see seagulls, that many of them anyway, in Hamilton, New York. But
they do fly in packs. So.
I guess so. On the show today, Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com and the syndicated David Glenn Show will be with us to talk all things Atlantic Coast Conference, as he always does. And you can expect us to spend a lot of time on what came down yesterday as breaking news here on the show. And then, of course, much more detail after we were finished as far as the FBI's charges and arrests that were made yesterday against 10 people, 4 assistant college basketball coaches and 6 others. And there are some very interesting names among those 6 others that we'll talk about coming up in a little bit. Also, because one of the schools that was not mentioned by name, but everyone, as it found out, knows who it is, Louisville, was heavily implicated, and also Miami was heavily implicated. We'll have a lot to talk about with Dave Glenn where this is concerned. And this is one of those things where not only Dave, being the fine journalist and talk show host that he is, comes into play, but also his law background.
Oh boy!
So this will
He's going to kind of decipher some of this.
The legal mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also today at Furman Roundup, as we always do, Forrest's 3 things, which will kind of include what we'll be talking about on the FBI investigation into college basketball. But this has everybody talking all across the country, to nobody's surprise, and it has some ramifications here locally because one of the names at Adidas, Merle Code, of course, played his college basketball at Clemson, and one of the assistants, who's now at Oklahoma State, up until last year was at the University of South Carolina.
And he's said to have done these bad deeds at both schools, Dan. So I think we might see some heat come down on the Gamecocks after one of their best seasons in school history last year.
Yeah, so I mean it'll be very intriguing to see how all this plays out and to see if this is not only maybe the tip of the iceberg, but I saw Dennis Dodd's column on CBSSports.com this morning, and his opinion, and I'd say that there are many others who share this opinion. His opinion is that this could end up kind of reshaping college athletics.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, Dan. This is going to send shockwaves throughout, and it's going to really change the landscape of how things are done recruiting-wise, and possibly even going into the NBA draft too. How the NCAA is going to handle that.
So we've got that to get to, and we'll spend a good deal of our time on that, as mentioned, with Dave Glenn of ACC Sports. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with Rick Pitino at Louisville.
I think he's got to be
today.
done.
I mean, the heat that's on him after everything else has been.
It's his 3rd really big offense with his mistress, and then what happened 2 years ago with the prostitutes involving recruits, and then now this. I think he has 1 foot out the door. If you ask me, Dan.
Tim Sullivan, the very fine columnist for the Louisville Courier-Journal, wrote today that he has 2 choices: resign or be fired.
Yep.
And of course, Pitino in a text to a radio show host yesterday, said that basically, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't know what's going on. So
that's just a complete joke, if you ask me,
yeah,
Dan.
I would imagine that is the case. Anyway, before we get into any of that, let's do what we always do at the top of the program and give a little love to our Furman athletic programs. What's going on here on campus?
Yes, sir. The Furman cross country team, the men are ranked 12th nationally, and they're ranked 12th for the second straight week. The women are back in the top 30 at number 29 in the country. They will compete at the Louisville Invitational this weekend, September 30th in Louisville, so they might be seeing some FBI agents walking around campus if they're not careful. The women's soccer team, Rachel Shaw was named SoCon Player of the Week. She had 1 goal and 3 assists this past weekend. She scored. She was a part of 4 of the 5 goals that led the Paladins to 2 wins this weekend, and she leads the SoCon with 7 assists on the young season. Raynard Ellis, he was named Honorable Mention Stats FCS National Freshman of the Week. So glad he got some kind of recognition for his great play up in Colgate last weekend.
Can I just interject something here?
Oh, absolutely. And I know what you're going to do.
And this is in no way, shape, or form a direct indictment or criticism of the young man from Western Carolina who was voted the Southern Conference Defensive Player of the Week, because I understand he's the one who batted down the pass on the last play of the game.
And that's all
that gave Western Carolina the win. But you award the Defensive Player of the Week to a defensive back in a system and a defense that gave up over 500 yards passing. Though they won the game, but they still gave up over 500 yards passing. And you give a defensive back the Defensive Player of the Week in that scenario, rather than, and am I biased here? Absolutely. But rather than a first-time starter, true freshman, middle linebacker who made 16 tackles, a sack, and 1.5 tackles for loss in a 45-14 win in which they shut down Colgate's running game, and that's what they came in to the game wanting to do. They were a heavy running team, and we took the run completely away from them. Who's voting and what's the selection process?
It seems to be that SoCon gave this man from Western Carolina the nod because of one play instead of Raynard Ellis for this entire game. So it seems to me that they put more emphasis on the big play instead of the actual overall grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and without talking to anybody, I would imagine the other justification is going to be, well, that was a conference game, and you were in a non-conference game. But come on, 516 yards passing, and he made a play that saved the game. I get it.
That's fair. Yeah.
But he was still defensive back on a defense that gave up 516 yards passing. I don't care who you are. That's not Defensive Player of the Week worthy. Even if Raynard Ellis is not in the picture, that's not Defensive Player of the Week worthy. Okay, rant over. What else you have?
All right, next up. The men's soccer team got back on the winning foot last night. They won 4-0. Kevin Edelman, he scored 2 goals, and they scored 3 goals in the first half. Josiah Baker netted 1. Drew Mostoller netted his first goal of the season. So just a really strong performance overall by the Paladins. And actually, Dan, I was doing color with Scott Cole on this. It was my first time being a color commentator. I don't think I screwed up too bad, but I definitely screwed up. So,
well, we'll find out if you get a call back.
That's true. We'll see, because we'll find out in the next week or so. But overall, just a great performance by the Paladins in their first SoCon game against VMI. They're now 1-0 on the young SoCon season, and 7-2-0 on the season.
And still ranked in the top 20.
18th, yes, sir.
Ranked number 18. By the way, Doug Allison will be with us tomorrow at 10:40, so we'll have Doug and Billy Davis on the same show again. Did we ever address Doug's trivia question from last week?
We didn't.
Again?
We haven't talked about it on air, but let's save that for tomorrow.
You want to wait until tomorrow?
I think so. Yeah.
Because Doug's very cryptic clue that I was very close to the answer is more accurate than you would think. and we'll just kind of leave it at that.
Oh boy, it's quite the answer too.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do trivia.
Okay.
Then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and get into thing one, which is going to be this FBI investigation.
Give a little backstory of what's going on here.
And with that, we're going to play a 3.5-minute clip from a news report from a Louisville television station yesterday, WHAS in Louisville. And you'll hear them not only obviously talk about the Louisville implications, but do a pretty good, simple breakdown of what the entire case is about. And then we're going to go into it in much more detail with Dave Glenn a little bit later on. But first, let's get to the trivia question.
That trivia question is going
Furman football.
How'd you know, Dan? Are you sensing a theme here?
I have sensed a theme.
All right.
You're getting predictable.
Since 1982, when the SoCon was reclassified to 1AA or FCS now, how many SoCon games has Furman won?
Since 1982.
1982.
How many Southern Conference games has Furman won?
That is correct.
Okay. And that's regular season. Is that does not count meeting someone else in the conference in the playoffs?
Regular season.
Regular season Southern Conference games. All right. If you have a guess, drop it on one of our platforms in the comment section, or you can hit us up on Twitter at Dan Scott Show. As we go out, as always, I like to tell you about our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company located in Cherrydale, right down the road from campus here, where you're going to get great food at fantastic prices, and you're going to get customer service like you would not believe. That's what makes the experience at Atlanta Bread so special. The food is fantastic. The desserts they have there are out of this world. Everything is baked fresh on site, but it's the people who you deal with on a daily basis that set them apart from so many other places. I would highly suggest that you go visit them. And when you do, be sure to A, tell them that you heard about them here on the show. That's important with all of our sponsors. But B, thank them specifically, because Jeff Massey is the guy who really took a leap of faith with us last year to provide us with a foundation to start building this show. And yeah, we're still in the building process, but we feel like it's getting a little stronger every day, and it's due in large part to what the Atlanta Bread Company did. As we go to break, there's a little more about them coming your way, and then we will do a quick segment on thing one, this Louisville or this FBI investigation into NCAA basketball, which highly implicates Louisville. We'll do that on the other side when the Dan Scott Show returns after this. The Atlanta Bread Company wants to make your dining experience as convenient as possible, especially if you're ordering takeout. Go online to atlantabreadcompany.com, place your order there, and pay for it too. Then, when you get to the restaurant at Cherrydale Point, you breeze right by the cash registers and go straight to the pickup counter where your food will be waiting. And speaking of food, try the new Shrimp Po' Boy, a delicious and surprisingly healthy addition to the already great menu. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope, time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives, and they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. Hi, welcome back. We are rocking and rolling here on the Dan Scott Show. Wednesday, it's 15 minutes past the hour. Quick reminder about the Walk a Mile project. You see the website there. Please go visit that website and find out so much more about the Walk a Mile project, thewhamproject.org. This is a group that is heavily involved in international missions from a Christian church perspective. Not only do they do it themselves and spend a lot of their time in Guatemala building homes for the homeless, finding clean drinking water sources, food sources, and those things, but they also train and equip other organizations to do the same thing. So visit the website, learn more about them, support them if you can, or maybe you can get them to come and speak to your group. The Walk a Mile Project, thewhamproject.org. And again, tell them you heard about them here on the show. All right, as we get back to play here, Force Thing 1 is, of course, the FBI investigation into college basketball, the news that broke yesterday. And while the school was not named in the indictment, boy, does everybody know that Louisville is really under the microscope right now.
Yeah, a research school from Kentucky, that narrows it down. So...
here is a 3.5-minute segment from WHAS Channel 11 in Louisville last night. So take a listen to this. Listen to how they break this down, including, obviously, what the implications are for Louisville. We'll come back and discuss it for a minute or so and then really get into the meat of it with Dave Glenn when he joins us at 10:25. But take a listen to this.
And U of L confirmed late this afternoon that it is under investigation again. Good evening, everybody. I'm Rachel Platt.
And I'm Doug Proffitt. We're beginning our team coverage here tonight with the I-Team's Derek Rose, who's breaking down the charges that 2 U of L basketball coaches, not named, negotiated big money so a star player would come to U of L. Derek?
Well, Doug, all this information is unfolding and happened this morning inside 3 criminal complaints that were just made public this morning. Hundreds of pages to sift through, and we're going to break down the key points of the case. We can't tell you. One of the biggest components is the local connection. U of L confirming it's part of this federal investigation involving bribes, kickbacks, and payoffs. Most of it centered on one particular recruit, but it's only the first pull at what could be a long thread. Damaging information spelled out in a 29-page criminal complaint against 5 people, including James Gatto, the director of global marketing for Adidas, as well as Jonathan Augustine, a program director for a high school-age team sponsored by Adidas. The feds accused 2 U of L coaches, Coach 1 and Coach 2, as being part of a massive scheme fueled by secret meetings and cash payoffs, as well as making reference to Coach 2's influence with Adidas. According to the feds, Adidas agreed to pay the family of a recruit known as Player 10 $100,000 for the player to enroll at U of L, who was also sponsored by Adidas, with the added agreement the player would later sign with Adidas when he goes pro. One prosecutor calling this the underbelly of college basketball.
Coaches at some of the nation's top programs soliciting and accepting cash bribes. Managers and financial advisors circling blue chip prospects like coyotes. And employees of one of the world's largest sportswear companies secretly funneling cash to the families of high school recruits.
Based on the Fed's description of Player 10, he was a top recruit this upcoming season to U of L, who publicly committed on June 3rd and is on the current 2017-2018 roster. From our own investigating, the only player who fits that profile is Brian Bowen. And according to the criminal complaint, there were 3 recorded phone calls between Gatto and a phone number used by a U of L coach in late May and early June to finalize the secret arrangement. 2 days later came the surprise announcement by Bowen committing to U of L.
The madness of college basketball went well beyond the big dance in March. Month after month, the defendants exploited the hoop dreams of student athletes around the country, allegedly treating them as little more than opportunities to enrich themselves through bribery and fraud schemes.
Exploiting the hoop dreams, that's the key sentence there, because you think about the future of that one particular athlete who we named Brian Bowen, as well as another athlete that they were trying to recruit that was supposed to be coming in the 2019 season as well.
And again, we're pointing out no one has been charged in connection with this with U of L, but they are named, though, coaches 1 and 2.
Coach 1 and Coach 2, yes.
And the question is will people talk, reveal names, more information coming? This isn't done.
They already have one cooperating witness that is connected to this, as well as the other criminal complaint in the cases involving the coaches who were named at other universities. So you have that cooperating witness, and potentially now even more people may start talking to get themselves deals and lesser sentences, perhaps.
Yeah, the one thing that you have to remember is that when the federal government
support for this show comes from our
calls a press conference,
you better listen.
Yeah, they don't do it haphazardly. They come to the table well armed, so they're not coming with a what you would call a flimsy case by any stretch of the imagination. As we were doing that on my ESPN app notification, breaking news says that Louisville coach Rick Pitino has told his staff he expects to lose his job.
As he should.
That's probably very insightful of Rick Pitino.
I think so, right there, and that pretty much tells me that he's involved heavily in these.
Well, he's going to maintain that plausible deniability, but
Sure.
it's as we talked about, it's the accumulation of things that have happened on his watch that now that it just simply can't be ignored anymore. And you know, the bottom line is, and the contracts that coaches sign with schools generally say that you are responsible for the actions of your assistant coaches. So whether you know something happened or not, quote unquote, know something happened or not, you're the head guy. You're still responsible because it happened on your watch.
I completely agree. And this has been an investigation going on since 2015. 2 separate but related schemes. And it really all starts with one person, Louis Martin Blazer III. He's a former Pittsburgh financial manager who is accused of stealing $2.35 million from clients by Security and Exchange Commission's, the SEC. He was the cooperating witness here, and just to give a little more background on him, he was accused of having a scheme to commit wire fraud in or about the year 2000 through in or about the year 2013 by making payments and loans to NCAA athletes in order to induce the student athletes to retain the defendant as a financial advisor and or business manager. So he really is the sole person behind all these accusations and why they have so much evidence, and from wiretapping to actual paper records down. So he is really the person that really got this thing going, and why the FBI has so much evidence in their corner.
When you are accused of embezzling $2.3 million and you see a possible opening for a deal, you sing like the proverbial bird.
Yep.
And that's what this guy
The
has
hills
been
are
doing,
certainly
obviously.
alive with the sound of music. So
yeah, no kidding. All right, we'll take a break and come back, and when we get back, Dave Glenn will be with us, and we'll get his thoughts on all of this mess. And again, his law background is going to be of extreme help to us as we digest this. And remember, it's while Louisville's getting all the headlines, Miami is also implicated in this because of a payment of $150,000 allegedly to secure a player. So we'll talk to Dave about that and much more when we return right after this.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingles, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingles, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show. The Atlanta Bread Company wants to make your dining experience as convenient as possible, especially if you're ordering takeout. Go online to atlantabreadcompany.com, place your order there, and pay for it too. Then, when you get to the restaurant at Cherrydale Point, you breeze right by the cash registers and go straight to the pickup counter where your food will be waiting. And speaking of food, try the new Shrimp Po' Boy, a delicious and surprisingly healthy addition to the already great menu. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville. All right, welcome back to the show. It is the middle segment, 1026, and we're happy to have you with us as always on this beautiful day in the upstate of South Carolina. We are going to get right to it, heading to the celebrity guest line and welcoming in Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, host of the syndicated David Glenn Show all around the state of North Carolina. And as I told him when I got him on during the break, there's not a better time in America to be both a talk show host and a lawyer, because all your bases seemingly are covered. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dan. Let's see. What do we have? We have a president inserting himself into the sports world and some interesting First Amendment and other legal issues.
Yes.
We have Louisville's championship banner in basketball having to come down pending their appeal with the NCAA, which involves a lot of legal type issues. You have Carolina waiting for its verdict from the NCAA. And now you have the FBI with a somewhat small investigation as we speak right now involving a somewhat small number of people in schools that obviously could blossom into something that could be remembered as one of the bigger forks in the road in the history of college sports as we cover it. So, yeah, the legal background helps. Some political knowledge occasionally helps. Some of this stuff is divisive, but some of it is just exposing more of the underbelly, the ugly underbelly of college sports that people like you and I have known has existed all along. It just pops up on the radar every once in a while.
Yeah, it's been really fascinating to watch what's transpired in the last 24 hours. It was just about this time yesterday when we got the first breaking news notification that this investigation was resulting in charges and arrests that would happen, and then the noon press conference and everything else that followed. And lo and behold, as we get more and more information about this thing, we find out that in the investigation as it stands at the moment, two of the schools that were not mentioned by name, but it's obvious who they are that are prominently involved in this, happen to be Atlantic Coast Conference schools, Louisville first, and then to maybe a lesser degree, I'm not sure, the University of Miami.
Yeah, we don't have as many details on the Hurricane story, but for two different reasons. The Louisville part could be one of the biggest chapters of this entire story. For one, we know that a Louisville assistant coach, or better put, a member of Rick Pitino's staff, we don't know the exact title for sure, was working with a shoe company executive, according to the evidence presented by the FBI, to funnel $100,000 to the family of a recruit who ended up signing with Louisville and is now a freshman with the Cardinals. That comes, Dan, as you know, in the same time frame that the Louisville folks in the sport of basketball was battling the NCAA over an escort scandal that has led, again, pending appeal, to the first ever case of a championship banner having to be pulled down in that sport. Rick Pitino having to deal with a long suspension. Rick Pitino having to claim in that case that he thought his assistant coaches were monitoring certain things, and then all of his assistant coaches were interviewed by the NCAA, and they said, oh, no, that wasn't part of my job description. Rick never communicated that to me, which is just a disgraceful. That's the worst part of the Louisville escort scandal. And now the same school in the same sport is being accused of this. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that will and should, if the evidence is proven correct, to severe NCAA penalties to go with whatever violations of federal law, wire fraud, corruption, etc. That's why the FBI is involved. We all know that the NCAA has a horrible track record of getting to the truth. And as you and I have discussed, it's not really that they're incompetent. They just don't have the tools to chase and find the truth. Whereas the FBI has those tools. And Louisville has a massive problem on its hands. Obviously, the 4 named assistant coaches in other parts of the country have major problems on their hands. We'll see how it plays out at Miami. But it's just something we know has gone on for a long time to various degrees. I am not one of those, absolutely not one who says it happens everywhere. I know too many coaches that would be unfair to. But it happens at a lot of places. And frankly, I'm not even mildly disappointed when the bad guys get caught.
The other side of it is, sadly, we're not surprised when it happens, which is an indictment, I think, of where college athletics has gone in the last 30 years or so.
I think you're right, and there's not an easy answer because, one, even if you gave the NCAA a group of what you think are the most intelligent, the most competent, the most investigatively talented, even if you gave all of those folks to the NCAA, they don't have the power, they don't have the ability to make wrongdoing go away. It's kind of like in American society. You can make all the laws you want. That doesn't mean people stop committing murder. It doesn't mean they stop committing all sorts of horrible crimes. They still do it. You just hope to catch the bad guys and punish them. In the NCAA, it's even more difficult than that. Not only do you know however many rules you have, they're still going to be violated, you don't have the ability to catch as many folks. You don't have the manpower and especially just the investigative tools to track down and prove the bad guys did what they did. That is not an easy solution. And the other place to look, obviously, is whether you would tweak the amateurism model. But I'm not a believer that even if you get to the point where this stuff happens, if college athletes got more than they're getting right now, and they're getting more than they've ever received thanks to the cost of attendance adjustment and other benefits. But even if you ramp that up more in the sports of football and men's basketball that create so much money, that doesn't mean people would stop paying families to make sure recruits go to certain schools. I mean, anybody who believes that those problems would go away with a different NCAA model is delusional. Now, might they be lessened? Who knows? But agents aren't going to stop paying for access to players they hope to sign out of college. And shoe companies and others are not going to stop helping these colleges attract the next prep All-American to their campus the way Louisville allegedly just funneled, with the help of the shoe company, $100,000 to the family of Brian Bowen so that he would sign with the Cardinals, which he, in fact, did. These things would not go away under any format. Again, it's up for debate how much they would change under different formats.
I think it's important to spend just a little bit of time going into a little more detail about something you said a moment ago when you said that the NCAA doesn't have the tools necessary to often get to the truth on these things. And you and I have had this conversation many times over the years, but the NCAA does not have the power of subpoena. They can't force someone to talk to them, much less tell them the truth. Whereas if the FBI calls a press conference, you can be pretty darn sure that they know what they're talking about because they have all of these tools.
That is correct. I mean, think about it. If you and I worked for the FBI and somebody didn't want to talk to us, I mean, they do have, Fifth Amendment rights, there's right against self-incrimination. But there are all sorts of people in the FBI context who, if we have proof or probable cause even that they are involved or they have evidence, you can truly be thrown in prison for not cooperating. If the NCAA is talking to anyone on earth other than somebody who works under the NCAA umbrella, they don't have to say a word. They don't have to return a phone call. They could figuratively or literally flip the bird toward NCAA headquarters and say, yeah, I have a lot of information. Much of it is damaging. Much of it would help you with your investigation of school X or Coach Y. But I don't want to help you. I don't have to help you. And there's nothing you can do to me as a result. Obviously, the NCAA has the ability to penalize coaches and assistant coaches and athletic directors and anyone else employed by an NCAA member institution. But the other 99% of human beings on earth don't fit that description. And many of them are the ones that have the interesting information or sometimes hard evidence. So those are not slightly different pursuits. You and I, with the power of the FBI, have a great chance of getting to the truth and catching the wrongdoers and penalizing them. You and I, with the same ability mentally and same effort and same passion, frankly, have very little chance of getting all the way to the truth. And in the rare cases when the NCAA does a better job of that, Dan, as you and I have discussed, it's often off the back of a great investigative journalist or a lawsuit that becomes public or a district attorney who exposes some kind of fraud in the legal system in a matter that is on the public record. The NCAA really has a hard time getting near the truth when none of those things are in play. But even when they are, it doesn't come close to the power of the FBI.
Hey, Dave, Forrest here. Do you think that the one and done rule has kind of heightened this ability for these shoe companies to kind of go after these young athletes, or has this just been something that, I know it's been going on for years and years, but has it been heightened ever since the one and done rule has been implemented at the college level?
I would say, Forrest, it's more the changing economics around everything. In other words, Sonny Vaccaro, one of the famous shoe gurus from way back in the day, is quoted over the last 24 hours saying, this stuff and forms of this stuff, agents paying people for access to players in college, but also the buying of high school prospects and their families. He says it's been around forever. It's just ramped up. It's more frequent. It's more creative now. And I think it has less to do with the one and done reality of today's world, more to do with the fact that, for example, in the 1980s, when Michael Jordan was becoming one of the original shoe spokespersons, the dollars were only so large, and now they're, into the billions rather than the mega millions. And meanwhile, NBA players are making salaries that in some cases are $30 and $40 million a year. And agents get cut of that, and financial advisors want to work with those folks to help make that money. So there's an even greater financial incentive today for the college or the assistant coach to purchase that prospect and its family because of mega TV dollars that weren't around in the same numbers or volume 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago. There are a lot of factors involved, maybe including one and done, but I really think it comes down to the dollars. And the bigger the dollars get, the more people are willing to cut corners and flat out break rules to get their piece of the action.
Do you think that the NCAA will ever change rules on athletic apparel sponsoring college teams, kind of help move this trend in the other direction?
I doubt it, because the NCAA, knows where its bread is buttered. Mm-hmm. And the NCAA sometimes says, in response to why they maintain the amateurism rule, at least when they're honest about it, they believe, philosophically, I know people roll their eyes at this, but they believe that just like, the Olympics for a long time involved only amateurs, they believe they want to stick to that principle. But they also realize that and they have an argument. Again, it's a complicated argument. They also realize that given the lawsuits that they're facing, given schools' desire to support 28 sports in some cases that lose money every single year, largely with the proceeds of one or two sports, football and men's basketball, that make big money, at least at some schools, when you don't always have just excess cash everywhere, not at every school for sure, you better be careful about not accepting that TV money from your TV partners. You better be careful about not accepting that money from Nike and Adidas and Under Armour, because if you're already complaining about your ability to balance the budget, one thing you're not going to do is shut down, in some of these schools' cases, shoe and apparel contracts that are worth tens of millions of dollars to these schools.
Visiting with Dave Glenn, ACCsports.com, as we do every Wednesday. The sarcastic part of me says that I didn't think I would live to see the day when someone else at Louisville made Bobby Petrino seem like less of a bad guy. But in all seriousness, right before we started the segment with you, got an update from my ESPN app that's popped up on my phone that said sources say that Rick Pitino's told his staff he expects to lose his job, which should not be earth-shattering news. My question to you, though, is does Tom Jurich, the athletic director, keep his job in all of this mess? Because he's been under a lot of fire over all of this as well, and has been able to remain somewhat above the fray. Will he survive this?
It's a guessing game. And for those who don't know, if you define an athletic director's job description as, at least in large part, raising money, finding corporate sponsors, motivating boosters, upgrading facilities, making sure you're competitive in football, men's basketball, and other things, and even competing for championships, going from a small budget to a middle budget to a great budget. By those definitions, Dan, narrowly, maybe even cynically, you might say, by those definitions, Tom Jurich is one of the greatest athletic directors in my 30-year career, by that definition. He did all of the things that I mentioned and more. He took a mostly irrelevant, in most sports besides men's basketball, athletic department with a tiny, by modern standards, budgets, and built it into a monstrosity that is now one of the bigger budgets in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And obviously, they've climbed the conference realignment ladder on multiple occasions to get themselves into a much, much more lucrative neighborhood than they were for most of their existence. So by that definition, he's not only been a good AD, he's been an off-the-charts, one of the best ever athletic directors. So how much moral or ethical fiber does that university have when it comes to its Hall of Fame basketball coach, Rick Pitino, and in your question, the athletic director, the amazingly successful, by that definition, athletic director, Tom Jurich? I don't know. It is telling to me that Rick Pitino is sharing that he thinks he's going to lose his job. And I'm one of those that did not believe Rick Pitino knew about 5 different escort parties happening in the basketball dorm. I truly, deep in my heart, do not believe that he knew that was going on, in the building named after his late beloved brother-in-law who died in the 9/11 attacks. I just don't believe that he knew. However, I also know a lot of coaches that kind of don't want to know how the sausage is made. And when he told in the escort scandal case, the NCAA, I delegated that supervision to my assistant coaches. And all of the assistant coaches turned around and said, no, he didn't. I mean, it's hard to have more of a bad look than that. And that's on the record. If you look at the Louisville case, that's the fact. When you add this to that, I agree with Rick Pitino that he is likely to lose his job. And if I'm the president or chancellor, I fire Tom Jurich as well. But last I checked, Louisville wasn't asking for my advice along those lines.
Forrest, what you got? Anything?
Do you want to move on to some football, or you keep on rolling?
Yeah, very quickly, because we've got to let Dave go do his own show here in a moment.
Fair enough. So, Dave, you got a couple of big games in the ACC this week. Miami travels to Duke. That'll be a very interesting test. And Florida State and Wake Forest, and then Clemson and Virginia Tech. My question, will Florida State go 0-3, and will the Hokies find a way to upset the Tigers?
Well, it's going to be a great matchup at Lane Stadium with College game day on hand. They're maybe the two best defenses in the ACC. Tigers are giving up about 9 points a game. The Hokies about 10 points a game. There's going to be a lot of pressure on those first-year starter quarterbacks. Kelly Bryant's a veteran starter, obviously, but in his first year. And Josh Jackson's a redshirt freshman who's had a good start for the Hokies. So that Lane Stadium atmosphere on Saturday night, national TV, ABC, is going to be fantastic. It could be the one and only stubbing of the toe that the Clemson Tigers deal with. But their road record recently under Dabo Swinney is that good. I think the Tigers have more overall talent, but I think the Hokies have a great shot at an upset on their home field. Florida State, I think, is just flat out better than even a 4-0 Wake Forest team. So, but it'll be interesting to see. They have to have a little bit of shock and lost confidence given their 0-2 start. And then it's crazy, but Miami-Duke is another matchup between undefeated teams. Miami's 2-0 and the Devils are 4-0, and they play on Friday night in Durham. Miami usually gets the better of that rivalry, sometimes in controversial fashion. But Duke is a quality, solid team this year, and I think this is going to be the biggest test so far for a complicated by hurricane schedule over these last few weeks.
All those years ago on the old show, whoever thought that I would be uttering this phrase? Since 2013, the Duke Blue Devils are the winningest football team in the state of North Carolina.
Isn't that crazy?
It really is. It really is. And that just...
Dan, that school went 50 years without finishing a single season ranked in the top 25 in football. Wow. Doesn't mean they never, popped into the top 25. But it is hard to go 50 years without a single top 25 season, and Duke did it until David Cutcliffe changed that.
Well, they were consistent. All right, David, tell everybody about you and your show and ACCSports.com.
Well, that's the place to be, ACCSports.com. Not only can you still get your hands on our ACC Football Annual, which is just a treasure trove of information for the entire season. We're days away from releasing the ACC Basketball Annual. So check out, you can pre-order that at ACCSports.com. And for those who like Twitter, you can also follow us at ACC Sports and at David Glenn Show. We have a whole lot of ACC-oriented stuff on football, basketball, recruiting, a lot of audio there as well from our radio show. But it all starts right there at ACCSports.com.
All right, a lot of stuff, and I'm sure that this is not the only time we're going to be talking about it. But, David, as always, thank you very much.
Right back at you, Dan. Good to be with you and Forrest again. Enjoy the games.
Thanks, Dave.
There you go, Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com. As we go to break, quick reminder about Hall's Chop House in downtown Greenville, conveniently located with just some of the best steak that you've ever eaten in your life, a fantastic deep menu to satisfy whatever your palate is looking for. And then they also have all of these different rooms available for your Christmas party upcoming or a corporate get-together, private party, whatever the case may be. They can handle it for you. Stop by and see them. They are open in the evenings, every evening for dinner. That's Hall's Chop House, the Greenville Steakhouse in downtown Greenville. All right, to break we go. We'll come back and quickly get through things 2 and 3 from Forrest, get our trivia question answer, and I'm sure he has an on this date or 3 as well. This is the Dan Scott Show. We'll return in just a moment.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR cell phone repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, at 10:50, we return. It's the final segment of the show. Our thanks again to Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com for joining us. And again, I've said it for almost 2 decades now. He's the best in the business when it comes to covering the ACC, and we get so much more from him as well. And that law background surely comes into play from time to time. All right, that was all encompassing thing one.
It was.
So let's
a lot of thing there.
Yeah, there was a lot of thing, exactly. What are things 2 and 3?
All right, things 2 and 3. For thing 2, we're gonna get a little baseball talk going on with the playoffs just a week away. The Yankees have clinched home field advantage in the wild card game, and the Dodgers have clinched the best record in the National League East. So the playoff picture in the National League is almost complete. You have the Dodgers with the top seed, the Nationals with number 2 seed, and the Cubs. They are by their magic number is 1 right now, and in the American League things are a little bit more hazy. You still have the Cleveland Indians and the Houston Astros battling for that top spot, and even the Yankees are still fighting for that American League East title. Only 3 games back with 5 to go. So
only 3 back with 5 to go.
Only 3 back with 5 to go.
Man, is that a front-running Yankee glasses statement? Hey, we're only 3 back with 5 games to go. You realize
we're almost there.
Impossibility.
They're on a 3-game losing. They're on a 3-game losing streak, Dan. So anything's possible. And the Twins are 1 game away from clinching a wild card spot. Yep. Bryce Harper returned last night. It was his first game since August 12th. He played 5 innings, went 0 for 2 with a walk. Dusty Baker said it was a miracle that he's back right now, so take that for what you will. And Albert Pujols, he reaches the 100 RBI mark for the 14th time in his career. And that is tied with Alex Rodriguez for the most in MLB history. So really good accomplishment for Pujols there.
Yeah.
So
I would agree.
All right. Moving on, thing 3. The UAB Blazers will wear unique jerseys when they host Louisiana Tech this weekend. Instead of donning their names, the players of their own names on the back of their jerseys, they will wear the names of patients at a local children's hospital named Children's Harbor. It's located just a block away from the UAB campus, and it's a part of the football team's community charity list. And this kind of just runs along the same river what Iowa's doing up in, I think it's just great stuff that they're doing for the children, Dan.
I would agree, and would be even better if once the game is over, if they took those jerseys and gave them to the kids whose name was on the back of it, and hopefully then they would be able to make up enough jerseys for every child who's in there to have one. You wouldn't certainly want to leave anybody out. But
sure.
I like it. I absolutely like it.
Yeah, no doubt.
What else you got? Trivia answer?
Let's do it. Yeah. Okay. Trivia question. Topic is Furman football, as Dan pointed out earlier. Since 1982, when Furman was reclassified in SoCon to 1AA, how many SoCon games has Furman won? Do you have a guess there, Dan?
252.
164.
164.
164. The winning percentage of 609.
Is that the most of any team in the Southern
Oh,
Conference?
by a long shot. Chattanooga comes in second at 118. Next comes the Citadel with 105. And then Wofford with 94 and Western Carolina with 93.
And that was entering this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Wofford, actually, you can add 2 more to their list and so on.
Yep.
But so that was coming into the 2017 season.
That is
164. 164.
Yeah.
SoCon wins. Pretty good total.
You got that right. Dominance at its finest.
All right, what about on this date?
All right. In 1923, Lou Gehrig hits his first of 493 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
In 1953, the St. Louis Browns play their final game as the St. Louis Browns, and they lose their 100th. The next year, they will become the Baltimore Orioles. In 1963, the Houston Colt 45s will be known as the Houston Astros in a couple years. They play 9 rookies in one game, and 2 are making their debut. In the following year, 1964, the Colt 45s play their final game at Colt Stadium. The next year, they'll move into the Astrodome and be called the Astros. In 1983, Tim Raines is the first since Ty Cobb to have 70 stolen bases and 70 RBIs in the same year. That's pretty impressive stuff if you ask me. In 2005, the Atlanta Braves clinched their 14th and final division title in a row. So just an unbelievable streak that they had there. And then in 2012, Doug Fister strikes out 9 straight to set an AL record.
Now, when you do these on this dates, are you doing only on this date in the sport of baseball?
Pretty much. There are a few other things I could point out, but I don't think they're as noteworthy as these. Like last week, I pointed out the wishbone and the Monday Night Football. So it's not always just baseball, but for the most part, baseball is the dominating force this time of year.
Okay, just wanted that clarification.
Oh, fair enough.
All right, so where are we now? We are pretty much at the end of the program. Tomorrow on the show, it'll be a busy day interview-wise. We'll have Billy Davis on with us, and not only will we be talking football with him, but he has been down in the Caribbean with Samaritan's Purse as they are working with those folks who've just been devastated by the hurricanes. And then also we'll have Doug Allison in studio coming up at about 10:40, and we will let Doug give you the answer to the trivia question that he dropped on us at the end of his visit last week. The question, by the way, was who invented the baseball glove? And the cryptic clue he gave me as I began to kind of talk my way through my thought process was that I was very close to the answer. So
we were both very close to the answer.
Yeah, we were very, very close to the answer. And in fact, it seems like it was somewhere right here. We were just ready to.
It literally was.
Almost like we could reach out and touch it.
You got that right.
But didn't quite have it. Anyway, he'll be with us tomorrow on Friday, among other things. We also may have Chad Staggs.
Oh, beautiful.
Tomorrow. So tomorrow could be a full interview day.
Might just have to go an hour and a half.
Yeah, or something like that, yeah. On Friday, Jay Sandos, the play-by-play voice of East Tennessee State, will be with us here, among other things, as we continue to try to cover what's going on at the SoCon and beyond. And that, of course, is Furman's next opponent. We will take our leave. That's it.
That's fine. That's all I got, Dan. So unless you want to talk more baseball.
Now let's go ahead and wrap it up. I've got a meeting later this afternoon. I'd like to get lunch. We'll be back with you tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you for tuning in. For Forrest, I'm Dan, saying God bless you. And so long, everybody.